So Disney's investing $60 billion into their parks and experiences and products, and you have lots of questions about where that money's really going. So today we're answering as many of those questions as we can so we can help you paint a clearer picture of Disney's future and what it really holds for your upcoming vacations. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So in one of Disney's security filings last year, the company spilled a major announcement. They're looking to invest $60 billion in the Disney parks and experiences and products segment of the company, which is like Cruise Line and ABD and all of the merchandise and stuff over the next 10 years. And when you compare that to the previous 10 years of the company, which brought us things like Galaxy's Edge, Toy Story Land, Avengers Campus, Pandora, countless other areas and rides, this new $60 billion budget will nearly double the amount of investment that Disney's had before, which means significant changes are on the horizon for Disney's parks and cruise ships. But since this is such a major investment, and because we've just had the D23 Fan Expo this past August, that revealed a lot of park and ship expansions currently in the works, the questions are swarming. How much of that budget does Disney have left to spend? How is the money being distributed? Has some of that money already been spent? I wasn't kidding. There's a lot of questions. But you have been swarming our comments since this $60 billion was announced, asking really important and really insightful questions over the past year that we're finally ready to tackle. So just as a quick roadmap, first we're going to give y'all a speedy breakdown of what this $60 billion promise looks like, and then we're going to jump into your questions so that we can hopefully get you some answers that'll help you sleep tonight and help you with your future Disney vacation plans too. I know, sleepless nights, definitely. So here's the breakdown. After Disney dropped that giant $60 billion ball on us, they went radio silent for a little bit, leaving us to wonder, what on earth is this mysterious massive budget going to be used for? But back toward the beginning of this year, we started slowly but surely getting more answers, including answers regarding how this budget is going to be distributed. According to one of Disney's SEC filings, we now know that 50% of the budget, about $30 billion, will go toward the Disney parks and resorts. 30%, about $18 billion, will go to tech and maintenance, and 20%, about $12 billion, will go toward the Disney Cruise Line and non-specified entertainment. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. Let's really start diving deep into what these numbers and percentages really mean. So here are the questions. Just knowing roughly how the money's being distributed across the Disney parks and experiences and products segment is at least a nice foundation for answering your questions today, but we're going to go ahead and see if we can give you more specifics, building around what you've been thinking about and asking, starting with how many new rides is this budget going to give us? Well, yeah, that's the biggest question on everybody's mind. Recently, we published a DFB video on our YouTube channel going through all the different rides that are going to be released over the next few years and beyond, or I guess I should say opened. And that's across all the Disney parks. Many of them were revealed to us during the D23 fan event for the first time, like Disney's first ever suspended coaster coming to the new Monstropolis section in Hollywood Studios. But some of them we've known for a while now, like the revamped Space Mountain coming to Tokyo Disneyland. The one thing all these rides have in common, though, is that they all fall within the $30 billion budget set aside for the parks and resorts. So as it stands currently, we're looking at, from the time this video is published, 9 new rides coming to Disney World, 10 if you're including the new missions coming to Smuggler's Run, 6 new rides coming to Disneyland, 7, again, if you're including Smugglers, and 7 new rides coming to the international parks. A solid way to start this video. Now, if you want to know about all those rides, head on over to our recent video where we're like all the new rides that Disney's opening up, because we just did a video about every single one of them. Now, how much does everything actually cost? I can tell you that $30 billion is going to the parks, $18 billion is going to tech and maintenance, and $12 billion is going to Cruise Line. But what does it actually mean when you break it down further? Well, I'll show you as best I can. Some of the big announcements and major changes that we've seen in the Disney parks as of late are focused around new lands. We're talking Tropical Americas or Pueblo Esperanza in Disney's Animal Kingdom, Villains Land and Cars Land in Magic Kingdom, Monstropolis in Hollywood Studios, and a second Pandora over in Disney California Adventure. That means lots of new rides, as we've already established, new restaurants, new attractions, just a whole bunch of new stuff all around. Now, in order to see just how much these new lands might be costing Disney, let's take a look at how much it costs to build Galaxy's Edge over in Hollywood Studios and in Disneyland to give us a little springboard to work with. While Disney hasn't released the exact cost for its e-ticket attraction, Rise of the Resistance, estimates have ranged from around $200 million to $450 million, and that's for each version of the ride, not a total for both. According to experts, the permits filed during the construction of the ride in California put the cost at $78 million initially, but that would have only covered the construction, not the staff time, computer systems, or the furnishings, which could have included ride vehicles, animatronics, and more. Since audio animatronics can cost $1 million or more each, and Rise of the Resistance has 65 audio animatronics, I'm guessing that total cost is probably more around $450 million. Meanwhile, a ride that's a little less involved, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which relies more on screen technology, costs around $55.7 million. And then there's other experiences like shopping and dining, which according to Disney's initial building permits for the Disneyland version of Galaxy's Edge, shopping and dining establishments alone would have added up to around $45.2 million. After adding in other interactive points and facilities around this area, the rough estimated cost of the entire land comes out to be $1 billion. Now, let's take a look at a land expansion that's even more recent, the Fantasy Springs expansion over in Tokyo Disney Sea. With the addition of 3 lands, 4 new rides, several restaurants and shops, and a full-on Fantasy Springs resort that spits guests out directly into the new area of the park, you're looking at a grand total of $2.1 billion spent on this 2024 expansion. Now, note, there are a couple of important things you'll want to keep in mind about both Galaxy's Edge and Fantasy Springs when it comes to comparing their budgets against future Disney Park lands to be. First off, Galaxy's Edge was built between 2016 and 2019, meaning building prices will be impacted by inflation for this $60 billion budget. Secondly, Fantasy Springs was built in Japan, where US dollars will stretch a bit further. Now, if you've been following along with everything going on in the wonderful world of Disney cruising, then you probably know that Disney's not just opening a new ship this year, the Disney Treasure, and not just opening new ships next year, the Destiny and the Adventure, and it's not just opening another ship in 2029, which will be designed by the Oriental Land Company and sail out of Tokyo. But Disney's also going to be building 4 new cruise ships on top of that. So, will that $12 billion budget really cover the cost of all these cruise ships in the making? Yes. Again, Disney hasn't revealed exactly how much it's costing them to build these vessels, but according to experts, the total cost for Disney's most recent cruise ship, the Wish, is estimated to be around $1 billion. So that $12 billion set aside can more than cover the ships Disney's planning on opening, and then some. Let's also keep in mind that Disney recently also opened up their new cruise line destination, Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point, which cost around $220 million, which also more than likely impacted the $12 billion budget too. So why is Disney putting so much money into cruise line? $12 billion is a decent chunk out of that $60 billion to shovel into their cruise line alone. And when we were watching the D23 Fan Expo, hearing about more and more and more cruise ships to come, I was like, what is going on? So why is Disney going hog wild on adding all these new ships when they already have so many ships to focus on? Well, let's think about this for a minute. Let's go back to what I said before. A Disney ship could roughly cost around $1 billion. Now, the Disney Wish can hold up to 4,000 passengers at a time. While pricing varies based on cruises, if the average cost of one of these Disney Wish cruises comes up to around $1,000 per passenger, then Disney's going to make $4 million on that cruise, not including all the extras that passengers might tack onto their total bills, like premium dining, spa services, drink packages, etc. Now, considering there are 52 weeks in a year, if the Disney Wish were to do 52 sailings, we're talking $208 million for the year, again, minus all the extra expenses. So while the $1 billion might be a hefty investment initially, as cruise demand continues to climb upwards, Disney will absolutely make its money back, not to mention they'll have plenty of extra revenue coming in as well. Okay, next question. How is this going to be split between the parks? Another solid query. You are definitely making Bria do a lot of research here. Okay, $30 billion for one Disney park would be a substantial amount of moolah that could really make a huge transformation, but that money isn't just going to one park, it's going into several. So let's talk about Disneyland first. We know for sure that $1.9 billion of it will be dedicated to Disneyland in California, thanks to the Disneyland Forward initiative. In case you're unfamiliar with what that is, or at least need a recap, Disneyland's going to work alongside the city of Anaheim to rezone specific parts of Disneyland property. This has been an ongoing debacle between Disney and Anaheim, leading to a whole lot of meetings and roadblocks along the way, but Anaheim City Council finally gave the Disneyland Forward project the all clear on May 7th. Essentially, Disneyland wants to change areas that were initially zoned for specific uses like hotel or parking and use it instead to not just expand the area's lodging and parking, but also dining options and theme parks as well. which could very well give us new lands like some of the ones we've been seeing pop up in the international parks like Zootopia and Tangled, Peter Pan, World of Frozen, etc. We're already starting to see some of those new lands take shape since the new Pandora World of Avatar was announced as a possibility for DCA back in April and then confirmed during the D23 fan event in August. Now, I gotta admit, for me personally, my heart kind of sank when I didn't hear about any new lands other than Pandora during the D23 event. They did officially announce an Avengers Campus expansion to include not one, but two new rides that we've been hearing about one of those rides for years now and seen the concept change several times since 2019. However, it's important to remember the $1.9 billion is just the start of an even bigger Disneyland project already in the works. All in all, Disneyland Forward will surpass that 10-year limit, stretching the $60 billion budget and instead become a 40-year-long project, working to transform the resort into something bigger and better, a unified entertainment center. Now, don't let that 40-year time frame scare you. If anything, it should be exciting because that means Disneyland will be working on bringing new experiences year after year after year over the next 40 years, instead of just all the cool stuff just suddenly popping up 40 years down the line. Now, heading to Disney World, paralleling Disneyland's continuous pushback against the city of Anaheim before finally getting that lovely little green light of project approval, Disney World has also had major political headbutting in more than one way for several years now. Not going to get into all that right now. It's a doozy and this video is only supposed to be yay long, but we do have a whole video all about that if you want to watch it. Now, the important thing for you to know right now is that Disney World and the Florida government have been able to come to an agreement recently, meaning the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, CFTOD, reached a new development back in May, and they've approved over $17 billion worth of investments for Disney World over the next 10 to 20 years. This new agreement covers about 17,300 acres owned by Disney and authorizes a maximum of 5 major theme parks. So, 5? Does that mean Disney World's getting a 5th theme park? Technically, they could build a 5th gate under this agreement, though obviously nothing's been announced and the agreement is not confirmation that one is coming. But considering the fact that Disney's most recent theme park that was built, Shanghai Disneyland, cost around $5.5 billion to create from the ground up, Disney technically has that in their $17 billion budget. But this agreement also covers a maximum of 5 minor theme parks, like water parks and other similar concepts, as well as 1.3 million square feet of office space, 1.7 million square feet of restaurant and retail space, and 53,467 hotel rooms. So just to clarify, the fact that they agreed that Disney could do this stuff does not mean that Disney is doing this stuff. It just means that now they're allowed to. And along with all that, Disney's also committing to fund at least $10 million in affordable housing projects and create a local business hiring program that would award a minimum of 50% of the value of all construction work to Florida-based businesses. So that's a lot of numbers that I just shouted at you, some of which we're going to explore even further throughout the remainder of this video. But the important thing to take away right now is $17 billion for Disney World, $1.9 billion for Disneyland, bringing us to a total of $18.9 billion out of that $30 billion budget for parks. And the rest, well, that still gives Disney about $11.1 billion to spend on its parks and resorts. So where's the remainder going? Some of that total we know is being funneled into Disney's international parks, which we've already been seeing in full force with expansions like Fantasy Springs and Tokyo Disney Sea, Zootopia and Shanghai, World of Frozen in Hong Kong, and the massive overhaul of Disneyland Paris's Walt Disney Studios Park, which is currently in the works to become Disney Adventure Park. But is there a possibility that Disney might make a new theme park in a different international location with some of their $60 billion budget too? I mean, maybe. Last fall, Disney told us that according to their internal research, there is an addressable market of more than 700 million people with high Disney affinity that it has yet to reach with its parks. In fact, for every one guest who visits a Disney park, there are more than 10 people with Disney affinity who do not visit the parks, meaning there are 10 people who love Disney but don't go to the parks. So this kind of talk has us wondering if Disney might try to tap into a new market across the globe now that they've got the budget set aside for it. In the past, Bob Iger has said that Disney's looking expansively in India and considering their options there. When the $60 billion expansion plan was announced, Disney released a map which showed where its addressable market lives. And notice that the biggest population of people with a Disney affinity who do not visit the parks is in Asia. Again, nothing has been confirmed or denied when it comes to Disney building some sort of new park gate in the future. But would it downright shock us if it were announced eventually? Probably not. Okay, so this next part is the part that I'm really excited about. Are we going to get any new hotels out of all of this? Something else that we might still hear about when it comes to Disney's $60 billion budget is anything regarding new resort offerings for Disney's domestic parks. Lately, Disney's been very focused on building those Disney Vacation Club resorts and deluxe hotels, which we've seen happen with the villas at Disneyland Hotel, the reimagined Pixar Place in Disneyland, the remodeled Fort Wilderness Cabins in Disney World, and the latest construction project, that Island Tower at the Polynesian Village Resort, also in Disney World, which is set to open this December. And that's great and all, except that Disney hasn't built a value resort or even a moderate hotel since 2012. So if Disney's trying to persuade families to stay on property, especially with all the new offerings currently in the works, will Disney work to invest in more budget-friendly options, similar to what we've seen Epic Universe do in preparation for their third park gate opening in 2025? Maybe. Or perhaps we'll see Disney open another resort that's connected to one of the new park areas. Disney World could definitely benefit from a hotel that opens directly into one of their parks, like what Disneyland and Tokyo have now. I mean, can you imagine a Disney Villains-themed resort that opens directly into the new Villains Land area in Magic Kingdom? Like, how awesome would that be? Honestly, Disney World already has a built hotel kind of attached to one of their parks that they could easily repurpose and reopen. Galactic Star Cruiser, anyone? And we were kind of shocked that Disney didn't mention anything about Star Cruiser during the D23 Expo. We do know Disney hasn't completely abandoned the project just yet, and they definitely haven't abandoned that particular building. For starters, we noticed that Disney filed a permit for general construction at the Star Cruiser's address back in August 2023. The company the permit was filed for typically works on things for Disney that involve engineering, mechanical, electrical, and technology work. Very interesting. Then in January 2024, Disney filed another permit for the Star Cruiser address for general construction from a new contractor that works on cosmetic changes. But the biggest indicator that Disney's not done with Star Cruiser just yet is what the company said right before closing this interactive voyage last year. Disney stated that this premium boutique experience gave them the opportunity to try new things on a smaller scale of 100 rooms. So as Disney prepared to wrap up that final voyage, they stated further that they would take what they've learned to create future experiences that can reach more of Disney's guests and fans. So this statement carries a lot of weight for the potential of new hotel experiences that go beyond just Star Cruiser territory and into regular Disney hotel territory that might help cater to the middle-class family who just wants to take their kids to Disney, but also wants to experience a new resort setting that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Are we being optimistically hopeful? Yeah, probably, but only time will tell, because while part of the $30 billion set aside for the parks is also being set aside for resorts too, we haven't heard anything from Disney yet that indicates whether or not a new hotel or 2 or 3 are in the blueprints for this 10-year plan. So how much of the $60 billion has already been spent? Let's keep in mind that Disney made the $60 billion announcement back in September of 23, meaning some of this money has already been earmarked or even put into motion. And that's not just including the announcements that were made during D23, but the things we've seen pop up in the parks between 2023 and now. This includes stuff like Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, the San Francisco reimagining at DCA, the new Country Bears musical Jamboree show in Magic Kingdom, the numerous DVC editions in both Disneyland and Disney World, the Epcot transformation with the addition of Communicore Hall and Plaza, World Celebration Gardens, Journey of Water, etc., multiple hotel room renovations worldwide, the up-and-coming The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure, being added to Hollywood Studios this fall, at least that's what they say, the new Disney cruise ship, the Treasure, which is taking its maiden voyage on December 21st this year, as well as Disney's new island destination, Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point, and the major overseas expansions, like I mentioned briefly in the previous point. Now, I'm going to stop there for now, but there are still several odds and ends projects that I could have squeezed into that list that Disney's also been working on over the past year and impacting that $60 billion budget. That being said, these projects are not by any means draining the budget and leaving us with nothing to look forward to. So, there is still money left to spend, even beyond the D23 news. While there are definitely concrete plans and strict budgets for a lot of the $60 billion already put into place, Iger's made that very clear, but when it comes to the unknown, Disney still has some safeguards in place to make sure that the opportunity well doesn't suddenly come up dry. Disney has put some of the $60 billion on hold so they can decide what to do with it at a later time. When Bob Iger was explaining why this decision was made, he mentioned that, hypothetically speaking, if 5 years down the road Disney comes out with another box office hit, fingers crossed for you, Disney, and wants to eventually create a ride or experience based around said new hit, some of this $60 billion could be used for that. And Disney wants to make sure they can provide for that potential because Iger sure does love his IP and believes in their power to pull guests back to the parks time and again, which I have to admit has been proven. I know, I hit you with a lot of numbers today that start to sound a whole lot like Monopoly money after a while, but here's the big takeaway from all of it. Even with Disney holding back some of its $60 billion for future IP investments, the new lands, rides, restaurants, and other Disney attractions that we already know about so far not only leave Disney with money left to spend, but also won't cover that whole 10-year time frame that Disney's allotted for this money to be spent. For some of the projects, like the cruise ships, sure, we're definitely looking at a 10-year timeline for all of those to be built, but everything else that we've heard announced shouldn't take Disney 10 years to complete. At least I hope it doesn't. Let's look at the completion timeline for Galaxy's Edge, for instance. Construction on the Star Wars land began in April 2016 in both Disneyland and Disney World. In Disneyland, Galaxy's Edge opened 3 years later in May 2019, and in Disney World a few months after that, August 2019. But will Disney be following that same sort of timeline for its new lands? The Tropical Americas section of Animal Kingdom already gives us the best illustration. While construction for this new land will be starting up this fall, Disney's planning on completely opening the new area by 2027, which definitely follows a similar timeline to what Galaxy's Edge did. So even with announcements for new areas like Pandora, Villains Land, Monstropolis, and the Tropical Americas, this still leaves Disney with not just money left over, but a lot of time, too. And now it's time to talk about the future of your Disney vacations. What part of that $60 billion can we expect to see make a debut in 2025? Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, 2025 is just going to be a drop in the bucket for Disney. This is especially true for World, which will be letting its big competitor, Universal Studios, take the main stage next year with that major third gate opening, Epic Universe. Don't be fooled. Disney by no means is going to be empty in 2025. More than likely, it'll be receiving a backwash of those Epic Universe crowds when the new park reaches capacity and or is too crowded for guests to spend their full trips in. With that being said, I'm not saying there's no new stuff to get excited about next year. We got a new nighttime parade called Disney Starlight arriving in Magic Kingdom next summer, 2 lounges slated to open in Disney World, a Pirates of the Caribbean themed lounge in Magic Kingdom, and a Spaceship Earth themed one in Epcot. The reimagined Test Track is going to open in Epcot next year too, and the new Zootopia Better Zoogather show coming in the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom by winter 2025. We've also got the Disney Destiny that will take its maiden voyage on November 20th, 2025. Plus, we've still got all the new stuff that recently opened in the international parks that are still shiny and new and ready for you to experience right now. But while it comes to any of those major lands, we'll definitely start seeing them break ground in the parks next year, so you're going to have to be ready for some serious construction just about everywhere except Epcot. So get used to a lot more walls. Okay, I know that was a lot of info. Hopefully it helped you paint a clearer picture for what Disney's actually going to be using their money for, as well as what we hope to see them announce later on down the road. But we want your opinion too. What would you love to see Disney surprise us with in the future? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to keep tuning back in here for more Disney news and announcements to come. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.